Did you deserve it?
The Dark Knight, Spider-Man 2, Logan, The Avengers. These films are considered to be masterpieces within most of the superhero fandoms. Passionate fans have been discussing the Academy Awards' long disregard for superhero films, as none of these great movies have gotten much attention from the Academy. Finally, in 2018, we got to experience an amazing lineup of comic book films. Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool 2, Black Panther, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And to my personal surprise, it actually happened. A superhero film was actually nominated for Best Picture. When I watched Black Panther for the first time, I was amazed. The world building, the characters, the story, I loved all of it, but then a little other film came out. Then another.
I saved the city, fell in love, then I saved the city again and again and again.
And I absolutely loved both Infinity War and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Actually, both of these films were in my top 10 of 2018. If I am being honest, I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a masterpiece of animation. And a couple of weeks ago, I was surprised to see the heavy Oscar buzz around Black Panther, and honestly, I was confused, because I didn't really even think that Black Panther was the finest comic book film of the year. I was not surprised that it got some attention at the Golden Globes, as every year they do have one or two really popular films in their version of the Best Picture award. But the Oscars, really, Black Panther for Best Picture, I didn't really think it was good enough to deserve the Best Picture nomination, even though I really loved the movie. When high-budget films such as Blade Runner 2049, War for the Planet of the Apes, and The Matrix, which I think are amazing films that didn't get much Oscar attention. But then Black Panther, a film that I liked and loved, but I didn't really think it was a great movie, got a Best Picture nomination. So then I decided to rewatch this film to see if I was missing something, to see if my problems with the film were no longer there on second viewing. I wanted to rewatch this film and see what I would think. So guys, I just watched Black Panther for the third time, and I think I can finally understand why this film got nominated for the Best Picture. Personally, I would have not voted or nominated it for Best Picture, but from the Academy's previous choices, I can really understand now why this was one of the Academy's choices for Best Picture. So let's break it down. The film starts and instantly you can see the massive talent of Ryan Coogler, the director of this film. As you know, in the start of this movie, you get a very heartfelt introduction to Wakanda as a child asks his father, "Dado, tell me the story of home." And basically, you get the story of Wakanda and its history, and it's a nice way to kind of set up this dynamic between a father and son, which is basically one of the themes of the story, while also telling us some exposition about the history of Wakanda, so we can really later in the film understand the viewpoint of the people who really want to protect Wakanda's culture and want to stop it from interacting with the outside world. And of course, the story being told has a bit of a double meaning. Once you rewatch this film, you're gonna kind of understand the different perspective, and you kind of get who's actually telling the story. But then you get some 90s hip-hop, which kind of sets the mood and atmosphere, and tells you where this scene will take place in, and what time period this scene takes place in. And after this initially kind of cliche basketball introduction and basketball shot, you really see the event that causes the whole plot to this whole film to go down. And within minutes, Coogler is able to smoothly change the whole tone of this movie, and it becomes from a cool kids playing basketball, it becomes a very serious confrontation between two brothers who are kind of political leaders. At least one of them is the king of a country, so it's instantly giving you this political angle, and it's amazing how Coogler is able to really transform the whole tone of this movie within moments. It's a really small detail, but when you look at it, it's one of those things at the start that really shows you that the director of this film is very talented, and this movie is probably going to be really good. The performances in this movie are also pretty much perfect. There's nothing mind-blowing about the performances, but for what the actors are required to do, they are extremely successful. Chadwick Boseman does a great job giving a strong look while giving a really vulnerable insight into the character of T'Challa. Andy Serkis gives an ape-crazy goofball of a character. Michael B. Jordan is a threatening but understandable dude. And overall, the acting is just really good. Even the side characters like T'Challa's mom, T'Challa's sister, and Lupita Nyong'o as T'Challa's ex-girlfriend, they're all really good. Those are some really great female performances of the movie as well. And all the performers in this movie do a really good job at what they're trying to do. You know, there are some people who think this film got nominated solely on the basis of the diversity in its casting, and even though it's probably a factor in why this got nominated, I think it's not the sole reason for the nominations, because if that was true, then Queen of Cartway didn't get a nomination, so it doesn't really make sense. There's other films that have diverse castings. It's not like this is the first film that has a diverse casting. Queen of Cartway from 2016 was a good movie. It was one of those Disney live-action films, kind of family movies. And if that had a very diverse cast, and if that was in the business of the Academy of just giving awards to diverse movies, then Queen of Cartway would have gotten a nomination for Best Picture. And it didn't, because it didn't deserve it. And after rewatching Black Panther, I think that Black Panther actually deserved the nomination. But yeah, it's great that a big budget film is giving more opportunities for black or non-white actors, but I think it is important to keep in mind that the diversity of this film doesn't make the movie any better in terms of quality, at least for me. Black Panther is one of those films that you really don't notice the editing because there's no clear style or different style of editing, but the editing, in my opinion, is really good and it does everything it's trying to achieve, similar to the performances. But yeah, the pacing, to me at least, is basically flawless. I know some critics and people who think this movie slows down at points, and they really take this as one of the criticisms of the movie, which is fine. I can understand that. I'm a fan of Chris Stuckman, and he had a similar criticism of the movie in his review. But I thought that this movie was entertaining throughout, and the pacing was really perfect, at least for me. That's all I can talk about, so I don't really want to say in my opinion, and at least for me, throughout this whole video, because film is a very subjective thing, and everything I'm going to be talking about and already have talked about is, of course, in my perspective.
The revolution will be live.
So, of course, a lot of attention was given to Kendrick Lamar's collaborative Black Panther album, and the album is awesome. I was absolutely listening to this album while writing, and I think that every artist, and there's like a whole bunch of artists and rappers and musicians who have worked on this album, and I think all of them that have worked on it did a really good job. And while this Black Panther album is getting most of the attention in terms of music, I think the score is also really good. It's composed by Ludwig Göransson. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that name, but I think the score is actually pretty underrated, especially the Kill-monger score. The costuming in this movie has pretty much become iconic within a year. Yeah, it's that good. These days, the saying a story is only as good as its villain is a bit of a popular thing to say, especially the people who review movies, and especially when talking about the Marvel movies, because most of the villains aren't really that good. And I think the phrase itself, a story is only as good as its villain, is kind of untrue now, because we've had heaps of examples, such as Superman, Guardians of the Galaxy, Men in Black, but villains are still important. Ulysses Claw in this movie is a pretty good villain. He's nothing mind-blowing, but what I really loved about this villain was actually Andy Serkis' performance. He gives an amazing performance in this movie, and as I said before, I gave this amazing pun of him giving an ape-crazy performance because he's actually the person who played Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies, which, if you can't tell already, I'm a big fan of. I really love those movies. But I was just really impressed by Andy Serkis' really good, goofy performance in this movie. And even though it was kind of a crazy performance, it kind of still fit into the serious tone of this movie. But the real standout was Kill-monger. This dude is basically Simba from The Lion King, except he's a total extremist. And while you can empathize with this villain, he is still really threatening, and I think it's extremely necessary for a villain to be threatening, either in terms of their physical attributes or their intellectual strength.
Hold up. Let's go.
For me, the most important things about most movies are their themes. This, for me, in most cases, makes the film feel like it actually has some sort of purpose. This film is basically all about sharing resources with people in need and imperfect role models. And I think these themes are very relevant, especially in the last couple of years. I think the Academy is drawn to the theme of sharing resources, probably because of the current political climate. And for me, the theme of imperfect role models is really interesting, and I think that's something that I think should be explored more in some kind of art, films in general, because I'm a film buff, so I want to see more of this in films, because I think it's something you can really delve into in other movies. I do sadly have some problems with this film that prevent me to put this in my best of 2018 films list. First, there is a character played by Daniel Kaluuya, who you may recognize from Get Out, and he's basically Black Panther's best friend at the beginning of this film. But suddenly T'Challa did something that he didn't really want him to do, the friend didn't want T'Challa to do, and he made a little bit of a mistake. T'Challa, this guy played by Daniel Kaluuya, really just wanted to kill T'Challa, and I thought that was a little bit unbelievable and took me out of the movie a bit. I just didn't believe that this character, within 15 minutes, wanted to be killing the dude when he was his best friend at the start of the movie. And you know, it's pretty crazy how that happens, and I thought that kind of bugged me and was pretty annoying. Also, of course, the final battle was all pretty much dumb. This has been complained about heavily, and hopefully they get to fix this in upcoming Marvel movies. I saw a really recent video essay about this on YouTube, and it really just described it perfectly. Marvel has a very particular story structure that they don't really want to stray away from. There was a really awesome moment where T'Challa saves his sister, Shuri, and that was really awesome to me, at least, because it really seemed like you cared about both of these characters, and it felt quite satisfying. There's a lot of chemistry between both of the actors, and the dialogue is really good, so you really feel like it's actually his sister and not just, you know, because she's a really important character in the story. It actually matters when T'Challa saves her. But apart from that, the rest of the fight was really weak. Also, it doesn't help that the CGI was absolutely awful in this end battle. They literally look like cartoon characters in some of the parts, and Black Panther's suit looks disgusting. It looks like it just looks so bad. It looks like some game, like it looks like a video game suit. Even worse, actually, it doesn't even look like it belongs in a video game. That's how bad the suit looks. But yeah, I think the ending battle was already a bit forced, but then the CGI just really ruined it. So basically, even though I personally would not pick this as a nominee for the Oscars Best Picture 2019 award, after rewatching this film, I can understand why thousands of Academy Award members may vote for this film as the Best Picture of 2018. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it, and I really enjoyed watching Black Panther for another time. As I said before, I do think I can understand why this film got an Oscar nomination. I wouldn't have given it myself, but I can understand. And also, guys, I've been like changing stuff up a bit. I moved houses recently, so the videos are gonna come out at a slower pace. I was trying to do 2 times a week for the last couple of weeks. Now I'm gonna go back to once a week. Also, for me, school started again, so I'm a bit busy in that as well. Guys, I hope you have a great week, and bye bye.